Hi, today we want to learn all the basics about JSON inside of Toddle and how you can use Toddle's native formulas to manipulate, edit, augment JSON data inside of Toddle directly on the front end. Now, what is JSON? JSON is a flexible object structure type that allows us to render lists or to render things with it. It's like it's like a structure that includes data, and it includes data in a specific level. It's not like every item in that has a different structure, right? It always has to follow the JSON guidelines, like for it to be JSON. And because of that, we have a universal approach on rendering lists, and JSON structures allow us to render lists inside of Toddle or to visualize different things in there. Now, if you look at my screen here, we can see is that I have two different kinds of JSON structure in the before screen. This with those brackets here, those ones, here you go. This is an array. This is an object. Now, we got those square brackets in here. That is an array. That is a list of items. We have multiple items in here in a list. This one in here with the curly braces, right? This is a more flexible structure, but it's not a list. This is one item. You could even have one of those items in a list, but we're not going to talk about that. That's more complex. But we got a list here, right? We got multiple things, comma separated. That's a list that would render a list. This one in here could also render a list inside of Toddle, actually, because Toddle is pretty flexible. But this is generally not used for rendering lists. This is generally used for, displaying multiple data. For example, let me give you a real quick example here. We can add a paragraph here, right? And this actually comes from object, right? And then I'm just encoding that so you can see it. So I could go in this paragraph here, right? And go on FX, and I could go to object, right? And I could add a get filter here to get the name, right? And then I would have Toddle in here. So that's what we're going to do in here, where in an array, right, I could go in here and I could add a paragraph, right? And I can go on FX and I can add, first of all, I got to go in here and I can go in this paragraph and I can go on repeat, and I'll repeat it based on the array, which is a list of items, as you can see. And then, you see I would be already rendering a list here, and I go on FX and I go on item. As you can see, I'm rendering a list here, a little bit ugly, but that's the idea. That's what arrays or lists, objects or data structures that, give us access to multiple types of data inside of one item. That's just something general to understand. Now, they can work both, in different use cases too, but we don't want to go into those depths in there yet. That's what we do in office hours and all those things, at nocodeprocode.com. Link in the video description in case you want to join right now. But, this is just for the basic understanding. So let's start with the list. Or actually, let's start with the object. I think that'll be easier to then understand the principles. So I have my after in here. I got my before and after beautifully, nicely aligned next to each other. And I got my text in here. So I can take my object in here, right? And I need to actually, just so that you can see it, because it's text, I need to encode JSON, but you don't need to do that, just so that you can see it. And actually, this is where preparation should have been a little bit more important. I need to also make this size 14 pixels. But as you can see, just ignore this one. I got this object here, and I can click on name, then I'm only going to show the name. I can click on born. I'm going to get that values, right? I have my key value pairs. This is what we call key value pairs. This is the key, this is the value. Key, value, key, value, key, value. Those are key value pairs. Now, those say this is the category, this is the value of the category, right? Price, priceless. So this is how those work. Now we can do a little bit cooler things with those, for example, right? We can go in this object and, we can just click on here and get that specific one, right? If we have a larger object, that may not be as simply, as easily as possible. So I can add a get filter in here as an example, and I can get, let's say, name, and then I'm only getting the name. So it's the same as if I were to click on here without that get filter, right? So that's what the get filter is doing. The get filter allows us to get any specific key from that JSON structure, from that object. Now, that's cool. We can also do set. I can go on set, and I can go on price, right? And I can actually say, it's not that priceless. It's actually, $29, a month. So a month. There you go. And I can update those things. I can overwrite that original data because that original data says priceless. So using that set filter, I would be able to then override that specific, that specific key in that object structure. So that's how I can do those things. Now, there are also some other cool things that we can do. I can, for example, add a filter in here, right? So I can filter out, the specific items in here. So, I can add a filter, and that filter could be a key. Oh, not key. Actually, it should look at value, right? So in that filter, because it automatically recognizes that this is an object, I have key value. Keep in mind, key value, key value. So the value, I could say, I only want to show all the values here that contain an E, which is Toddle, Web3, and priceless. I don't know, it doesn't have an E. So I can go on value, right? And I can just, make a formula. I can do includes E. And then you see how I filtered for that? I only got the values in this object structure that contain an E now, which is Toddle, priceless, and Web3, as you can see. So I got those things. I could also do something very similar for the key, where I look on this thing. This is the key, right? I want only all of those that include an A, as an example, right? You can do more advanced stuff, includes an A. So now I only got that categories in here, right? The keys, not the values, the keys that have an A in them. So, that's how those things can work. And then, we got filter, we got also delete. So I can go to delete, and I can delete an item, and then I can, delete, and we can now delete a specific item. So that path, let's say we want to delete name out of here. So now I'm going to delete that name, right? This is also how we can target things. We could also say I want to delete the third one, right? So I add an array in here, and then I just add a 3. Or actually, no, that's how it works in arrays. No, that's wrong. Actually, that's how it works in arrays. Sorry, we got to work by name here. So if I click on name, it deletes name. If I go on price, it deletes price. If I go on category, it deletes category. So those are the things here. We could also add a sort, right? Sort by. Actually, does their sort contain objects? Sort an array. No, that won't work. Or let's look at that. Item. Yeah, it won't work. This is just for arrays. So those are just the general things that are available to us for objects. Now let's look at arrays, because they're a little bit more advanced when it comes to sorting, because they are made for lists. More than likely, you're going to work with a list of objects, but the object itself is still important to know that there are some filtering options that you can also apply directly inside of Toddle on those. So let's now, this was the object. Let's look at the arrays, because they're even more fun. Let's just make sure this also 14 pixels. So I can go in here, I can go on FX, and now let's bind this to our array, right? And here's the thing, here's where you already see the difference, right? This is an array. If I set that array as text, right, it doesn't just say object, it automatically turns that array into a text list, right? But then if I do JSON encode, then we get it into the array. So it's a more flexible type, it can also be represented in text alone. Objects are the things that generally struggle a little bit if you want to represent it as text inside of Toddle. So now in here, just again, ignore this encode JSON. It's not important. It's just for you so that you can see it in here. But in here, we can, start with basic things again. We can get a specific item. So we can add a get filter in here. Now, again, I can click on one. I'm going to show, and by the way, arrays start at 0. So 1 is 0, 2 is 1, 3 is 2, so it's always -1. So in arrays, we don't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. So we start at 0. That's just how computers think. They don't think logically, but that's just how computers work. They start at 0. So 0 is actually an item. 0 will be the first item, right? 1 will be the second item. 2 will be the third item. 3 will be the last item, the fourth item, right? So again, we got that like the object, but then I can add a get formula in here, right? And now I can't just say, I can do 0, I can do 1. This goes by numbers. I can't just say like first. Oh, first. I can't just say first, right? Because other than the object, this only has values, right? We have a value, we have a value, we have a value. This is a list of values. We don't have any keys in here, right? So we can't look for that keys. But the key is the iterator, is the iteration. 0, 1, 2, 3, those are invisible keys if you want to call it that way. Those are invisible keys. So, I can add a get filter in here, right? And that path will be 0, and 0 will be first, and 1 will be second, and 2 will be third, and 3 will be the last, and 4 doesn't exist. So this is how we can make it work with a path, right? So, those are the things. And then, for example, I can, remove that, and then I get the whole list again. I can then also add a delete in this example. If I want to add a delete in here, I would delete it by the path. So let's say I want to delete the first one, right? Or actually, I want to delete the first one, which is 0. I always got to think about that. The first one is deleted, right? If I want to delete the second one is deleted. If I want to delete the last one, right? The last one is deleted. I would then go by numbers, by the iterations, by the index of that list item. Now, another thing that we can do in arrays, which is probably, one of their best use cases, is sorting. But actually, we could also, let's also do a set real quick. So we can do a set here. Let's say I want to update the first item, so 0, right, to say Andreas. I know you're going to see this. Here you go. So we got Andreas in here. That's the first one, right? And then we want to make the first one Andreas, actually. Andreas. And then I can add another set one. And I'll make the last one Vakas. The best comes at the end. And we got Vakas. So this is how I can override this array. Because initially it doesn't say Andreas, it doesn't say Vakas. I can use that set filter to override those items in the initial JSON structure and, have a new array structure, a new list, manipulated based on those things. This is how I could do those things inside of Toddle. I'm so sorry to have you both deleted now. But now let's go into the more exciting things with arrays, which is sorting, right? So we can add a sort by. And I can do item, and, we could just make this ascending false. So now it actually sorts it by the item name. So as you can see, it's going to make it somewhat alphabetical, right? It's going to sort that up, down, ascending. Here you go. Now it's descending. Now let's make this ascending. True. It goes the other direction. I could also, oh no, I don't have the index in here. So I can only sort it by item, right? I could also look at item. I could, do more advanced things. I could also sort it based on the last character. So I could add like a split filter in here, which will break that whole text into an array. And then I can just use the last to get the last one, right? And now we get different results in that formula, because it looks at the last one, right? It does A, B, C, D is on the top, and then, T is all the way down there at the alphabet. So, we can do those sorting things. Now, we can also do filter. So I can add a filter in here, and now I can have that formula. And the cool thing is with the filter, I have the index also available. So I can do index, for example, greater than 2. So in this example, I would only be getting the third item, which is the fourth item, really, because we start at 0. Got to keep that in mind always. Or I can do greater than 0. Then I would be cutting out the wrong item. Because the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And we can look, is this specific item in that list, is its index greater than 0, meaning the first item, which would automatically strip out the first item, right? That's how we can do filters on that index. We can also make a filter on the item, meaning, every one that includes I. So I can do item includes I, right? And then we got first, third, right? Those both include I. And then we only got the list items that include an I. That's how you can filter through names and do all those things, have built like a search bar and all those things. So we got that filter. Then we also got delete, right? I don't know if I showed you that already, but real quick, delete, I can delete. I think I did, but, with delete, I could just do one. First one is deleted. I could also add a take. So I can say so take is pretty cool. So if you have an array of 500 items, but you only want to show a preview of 2 items, the take formula here will allow you to only show 2 items of that array on that front end, right? So you only have 2 items in here, right? So that take one will limit the amount of items being shown. So it will say, okay, you have 500, but we only take 2 of those, and we'll take the one on the top. If you want to take the last 2, right, you could add a sort in here, sort by, and then, we want to go sort by, and actually, we don't have the index in that example. So actually, we gotta, let's see, descending. Okay, that's actually a good question. We'll just actually take probably the last based on that index. But you get the idea. So in here, we got the take, we got the first, we got the 2. Here we go. And, then we're taking the 2 ones. For example, now we want to add a third item in here saying, pay to get more, to view more, right? After that take filter, I could add an append, which would append is adding a new item inside of an array, inside of a list, adding a new list item inside that list. And I can say upgrade for more, right? And then now I say here, upgrade for more. I have 4 items in here, but I'm only going to show 2. And I add a new third one saying upgrade for more. So that's how those things work. So that's how I, do those things. I got that take filter here. I can remove that take. There's so many other cool filters here. And we're not even like in logic and those things. So we got pretty cool things. But, this is just the basics on the filtering of JSON objects, how to work with JSON objects inside of Toddle. And I think if you understand that, you understand the fundamental concepts on how to work with Toddle effectively and efficiently. And if you want to learn more about those things and become an even better Toddle developer, I would highly suggest you to look into NoCodeProCode.com. We have daily office hours from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. PDT. We got dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of courses and educational videos and tutorials that are not on YouTube that really help you build, exclusive, exciting stuff. We got a whole component library to help you make progress faster on some of the hardest things in there. And then we got a bunch of Toddle boilerplates. Right now we got 3 full templates for 3 pre-built applications from, or actually 4 because there's one in the works. So from link in bio with full payment gateways and, adding custom domains to your link in bio page using like a DNS, a reverse DNS kind of like mechanism using some edge functions all pre-built, to, having your own AI SaaS pre-built, saving you weeks and weeks and weeks of work, as a template with a 25-hour or 24 to 25-hour course, how to set everything up step by step. Then we got a basic template for beginners and, just like how to build my first SaaS. And we got a bunch of other cool stuff. We even got like a template for like a fintech SaaS where people can connect their bank account and they can chat with their bank account using an AI agent that's trained on their finances. So we got all those cool templates. You can mix and match and piece those together. We got also Xano snippets to help you. So every template includes Xano snippets. So you got the whole backend and the front end all pre-built with everything. Just change your API keys and you're good to go. And then, change the colors and, customize it to your liking. So we got those things in there to help you ship faster, and everybody loves it. And I think the reviews, the testimonials, they speak for themselves. Leonard shipped his app 50% faster. So everybody really loves it. I think you'll be getting a great value out of this investment. It's just $79 a month, and we got a bunch of cool things in here. A bunch of cool things, dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of just educational content, videos to help you succeed at your next build inside of Toddle and Xano. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that. And yeah, if you want to join, the link is in the video description below, nocodeprocode.com, and in the pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.